What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gridiron Uncensored podcast, show, YouTube, everything that we do. We talk college football. And if you count us tonight, we did do a live series as well. College football 25 video game. That was a cool little live experiment there. That was fun. We're all excited for that game. And just as we're excited for college football 25 to come out, we've been waiting 11 years. We're all ready for college football season to actually get here. The real life version. It's obviously great playing on a game, but when it's on the field and you're watching it live, that's when it really matters.
That's right.
So we got 2024 content. We've been breaking down the ACC, and tonight we're doing Notre Dame, NC State, and Pitt. We've already covered in our past episodes, if you have not seen them yet, North Carolina, Miami, Louisville, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Duke, Boston College, California, and Clemson. So if you're a fan of those teams and you're just joining us, go check out our past episodes. You'll find them there. You can see on the thumbnail that our good friend Trevor made. They're beautiful, by the way, Trevor. You can see the teams on there. So hey, this is my team specific. You don't really have to go hunting. So, if you haven't seen that, go check them out. But tonight, we're focusing again on Notre Dame. We threw him in there. I know we caught flack from an old pal, Jared. He doesn't like that Notre Dame is in with the ACC. Said it brings him down.
Unfortunately, they play the ACC more or less the ACC schedule.
Can't help. Like I said, they're like a stepchild. You just kind of have to bring them along, or step brother. You just kind of, hey man, mom said you got to come to the party with us, and I've got to drive you around. That's kind of what happens. But they're in most other sports. So either way, they're in there tonight. Notre Dame, we've got NC State, and you've got Pitt. So Trevor, let's go ahead and jump in.
Yep.
We got Notre Dame first. We're going alphabetical order. Last year was, I'd say, kind of disappointing when it comes to Notre Dame and what they were expecting from that year. They brought in Sam Hartman. Which I really liked Sam Hartman. I thought he did awesome at Wake.
I had high expectations for him at Notre Dame with the talent they had.
But again, this year it just felt, last year with Notre Dame, it felt kind of, I don't know if I want to say neutered, but restricted on how they used him. And I'm not even trying to
a great word.
It's just simply how it seemed. And I'm not the only one that felt that way. There was a lot of people that said that. Trevor felt the same way. Our other co-host Blake felt the same. And they started strong. They beat the hell out of NC State, a team that we're going to talk about tonight. They beat the hell out of Navy in Ireland. But then they went and blew it against Ohio State. That's a coaching thing. They had 10 men on the field for multiple plays. And then you go out, you got to win against Duke, and then you go out and lose to Louisville. Couple wins, lose to Clemson. So it was like the games you should have won, you didn't, because you either poor coaching, seemed what to be to me a neutered offense. At least for the quarterback. Obviously, you had Estime, that was a really strong running back, but 2023 just seemed disappointing to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see what Marcus Freeman can do going into 2024. He's 19-8 overall. He's got some bad losses on that record.
Horrible losses.
Bad ones. Marshall.
And the problem was that some of those losses were due to him and his coaching staff.
I absolutely agree. Like I said, especially you can highlight from last year the Ohio State game. They had that game in the bag. They started playing really soft coverage, and then they had 10 men on the field. You cannot do that multiple times and one drive. You cannot.
It kind of goes into my evaluation of Notre Dame going into this season is the fact that they did not make any changes on the coaching staff.
Yeah.
No changes whatsoever other than one linebacker coach. I'm just like,
yeah, it lends to feeling a little bit iffy about this 2024 year, at least in my perspective. Trevor, I know you feel the same.
Yeah.
But again, 2023 was rough because you didn't win what you wanted to win. 10 wins is great. It's wonderful. But when you're Notre Dame, you're expecting a lot more. And, 2024, you did go out and you're running another transfer portal quarterback. You've recruited well. Notre Dame always recruits well.
Yeah.
But they went out and this time they got Riley Leonard. Sam Hartman's gone. They brought in Riley Leonard, who really had a wonderful year early last year with Duke before he got injured. I'm curious to see how he's going to fit into this offense. I think he's a different style quarterback than what Sam Hartman was. So maybe he'll fit them a little bit better. But they're also, I feel, maybe similar in a way too.
Well, I agree with you to a certain extent, but I still think that Sam Hartman was a better thrower than Riley Leonard is. And they didn't even utilize the arm that Sam Hartman had or how accurate he was, because he could never get into a rhythm during these games to actually have like a really good throwing. I think he had like one or two games last season that were over 300 yards passing.
Yeah, I'd have to go check, but I know it
wasn't
double
check myself.
But there was times that I'm just like, man, okay, it's starting to come on, and then it would get unimpressive. And look, I'm not a stat chaser either. Okay, you don't have to throw for 300 every game to be an elite quarterback in my mind.
No,
but you can tell a feel of a quarterback and a feel of an offense when that quarterback is in the lead or when the offensive coordinator is running things. And it just didn't feel right a lot last year for me watching Notre Dame.
For me in that regard, it's more or less me thinking of knowing of what Sam Hartman did while he was at Wake Forest before he came to Notre Dame, as opposed to me looking at someone that goes into for example, not to be a homer or anything, but for example, like you take a freshman quarterback in Michigan, doesn't ask the quarterbacks to do a whole lot at Michigan because they have such a good offensive line, run game, so on and so forth, and defense. Notre Dame didn't have any of those things. They didn't have a very good running game, I thought. I thought that their strength would have been Sam Hartman and his arm to loosen up the defense for the run, as opposed to the run loosening up the pass game, which they didn't even do in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know. I like their run game with Estime, but I do feel like the passing game limited their ability to run better. Especially, I mean, you've got really strong offensive line, and I'd say even their defensive backfield, especially, I thought was strong.
They were.
I lean it towards coaching, and that's where I want to see how has Marcus Freeman adjusted, and how has he gotten better going into 2024. And like I said, you went out and got Riley Leonard. The dude's athletic. He can run. He can pass. He can lead a team. He's done it. He's shown it. I want to see him in this offense really take the reins and be given maybe a little bit more like freeway to just play football. And now that's going to be tough. Okay, let's talk about the portal class real quick. Obviously, we've talked about Riley Leonard, but they've brought in 8 players. They lost 18. Yes.
The math doesn't add up here, folks.
It's the 40th ranked class. So it's not horrible, but okay.
It's not. It usually, I mean, I feel like if you're top 25, you're doing okay. Outside of that, it's questionable.
Yeah. And with the returning production at 53%, I feel like you'd want to find a little bit more. Especially,
I mean, there was a lot in the portal at the time when they were going after Riley Leonard and RJ Oben and, Jordan Clark, Bo Collins, Chris Martin out of FIU. There was more in the portal that they could have went after. And more than likely, just because they are Notre Dame, they would have probably gotten a few more.
Yeah.
If they went after it. But I don't know. Maybe they spent all their money on Riley Leonard. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how their NIL works necessarily. I'm sure it's probably similar to other teams that have strong academics. But I do look at it, and look, when the fall portal happened, there was an exodus, and especially from the wide receiver room and on the offensive line group. They did go out and get, like you mentioned, Chris Mitchell from FIU. They went out and got Jaden Harrison from Marshall. And then Bo Collins, another one from Clemson. That's one I'm a little bit more excited about. He's got really good size. So I'm interested to see how he plays in. But again, you're going to have this is a whole new quarterback, wide receiver room. You've got a couple guys left over from last year, but it's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm curious to see how they're going to play out because they're expecting playoffs this year. And for right or wrong, whatever, that's what they're expecting. And I understand that. You're Notre Dame. You expect to win these types of games, big, New Year's Six bowl games, go to the playoffs, but it hasn't happened in a long time, Notre Dame. Yeah. So you need to
time
really
to curb the expectations a bit until you start winning on a consistent basis, the big games. I'm not talking about the mediocre to mid games that you play, but the premium games. Like, do you actually expect to beat USC this year? I'm not so sure. Do you expect to beat the SEC or the ACC opponents you have this year? I am not so sure that you will be favorites in some of those games.
Yeah. And there's certain teams that I don't want to buy into until they prove it. And some of these lower echelon teams, in the ACC, when we talked about Cal, they've had some rough stretches, but I like what they've built. I can see why there's hope there. I can see hope with Notre Dame. They've recruited very well, but it's still just one of those, like, I need to see you do it before I really buy in. I need to see that, okay, Marcus Freeman's taking a step in his coaching. He's better at controlling the game.
He knows how to count to 11.
Yeah, counting to 11 is definitely one. And now I know it sounds like we're slandering Notre Dame. We're not. It's not the point. It's just I have some concerns. Okay,
it's not like we're saying anything that's untrue, though. That's the other thing, is that whether you like it or not, it's the honest to God truth.
And it's not even just me and Trevor saying this. I went onto their boards and I've been reading about them, trying to research, for this team, and even the insiders or people that follow them religiously say, hey, we're concerned about this offensive line this year and the wide receiver group. The spring game didn't ease any of those troubles, but they are happy to have Riley Leonard. They see some good things in that wide receiver room, but I think obviously it's a spring game. It's not final. Everybody's working together, trying to mesh, so things can change from here till the kickoff. But there are reasons for concern, but they do have an over/under of 10.5. So Vegas sees something positive. Maybe it'll happen. I don't know. Trevor, do you want to say anything else about this before we go to the schedule?
No, let's move on to the schedule because I have some things I want to talk about there too. But as far as the transfer portal goes, I mean, if you have 10 leaving, you darn sure better get 10 back in to supplement those whatever position groups are hardest hit as far as talent goes. I understand that you'll lose some depth guys that want to have a chance at playing, having significant play minutes. That's different than losing legitimate starting wide receivers and legitimate starting offensive linemen, so on and so forth. When you start losing those kind of caliber of players, then it's almost a requirement to, if you lose 10, you get 10. You can't be just lose 18 and get 8. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah. And I mean, you lost your starting center.
Yeah.
On a run heavy team, and he went to an interconference opponent in NC State that we're going to talk about. So those are things that you want to plug, and even depth matters. Okay, everybody knows that depth matters in college football. You have to be able to rotate,
especially with this schedule that is now going to be a thing where it's not just the regular season, it's not just the conference championship, even though Notre Dame's not a qualifier for it. Just saying, but if they make the playoff, then you got to, do the grind of the playoff as well.
You've got to be deep
because they won't get that they won't get that automatic bid. So they have to win all the way through. Yeah. They have to win out and give themselves the best chance to get them that at-large bid.
Agreed. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it moving forward. I know they did get some good pieces. RJ Oben, he's had a really good spring from everything I've read, even during his spring game. Got to see some of that, and he looked pretty solid. Right. Now, let's talk about the schedule. I circled it on, when we talked about biggest games. That's another one of our episodes a little ways back. You can find it on YouTube or any of the podcast sites. But we mentioned the Texas A&M Notre Dame game. That's a huge game to me because it shows, okay, is Notre Dame going to be serious this year about contending? Texas A&M, I know they're another team that I always say they need to prove it. They need to show more. They got a new coach. They've got it. I'm going to give them, their time when it comes. But for Notre Dame, you're talking playoffs this year. You better go out to Kyle Field and kick some ass. This is a huge one. Marcus Freeman, you've been there for a minute. You better have this team ready to go. You cannot have blunders. So go out and beat Texas A&M, and then you got NIU and Purdue, Miami, Ohio, which is one of the better group of 5 teams, but that's a win, and then Louisville. You should have beat them last year, but you didn't. So how are you going to handle that one? And then you have a bye week, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, and then Trevor, you got Florida State down at the very bottom.
Ain't no way they're getting past Florida State.
You don't feel it, man.
Not unless they are undefeated going into that Florida State game. I might give them a 50-50 shot, but the talent that Florida State has put together, and if depending on the way the season plays out, by the time this happens, I fully expect that Florida State's on a potential really good run of wins by this point.
Yeah.
And they are not going to let Notre Dame slow them down.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say it's a tough schedule. The way it's broken down, you get good gaps in between of kind of middling teams.
Yeah, they get these fun games where it's like Navy at MetLife Stadium, a neutral site game, and the Army games at Yankee Stadium, fun for the kids and whatever. But
and then you finish at USC.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why there's a 10.5 over under. I can see that. Do I see them going over and getting 11 wins? I don't know. I don't know. I just want to see how Marcus Freeman leads this team. And it's not because they don't have talent.
Mm-hmm.
They have talent.
I'm surprised they got 10.5 as the betting line for them for the season. It really does kind of surprise me. Considering no real changes have happened.
It seems maybe they're going to be favored in most of them. I don't know exactly how those over-unders work, but I'm assuming that they're going to be favored against Texas A&M. I know it's on the road.
I think probably going to be favored against A&M humming. I think Elko is going to have them humming.
People don't like him, but I kind of like Elko.
I do too.
They're probably going to be favored against Louisville. I doubt they're favored against Florida State. And that would get you, if you only lose 1 to Florida State, that gets you 11, and that's your over. So, I don't know. I guess we will see. But for me, I can see some optimism for the team, but I want to see it play out. So for me, I'm not going to be optimistic. I'd probably say 9 wins, maybe 10. I could see 10. But it's going to be a battle.
I see 3. I don't know. There's 4 games on this schedule that mean the most, and if they can't win 2 out of the 4, I mean, yeah.
And you still better be ready for Georgia Tech too, who's got a good offense.
And Purdue. I'm not even trying to knock Purdue because they could be coming out hot and heavy with what they got cooking. So you just don't know.
Exactly.
And look, yeah. I mean, with Louisville and then Georgia Tech and then even Virginia, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Notre Dame, but I am not holding my breath that they clear the line at 10.5.
No. Notre Dame fans, let us know what you think. Again, we're not hating. We're just trying to give honest assessments of the 2024 season in these previews. We talk a little bit about the transfer portal, what you guys are bringing in, what everybody's bringing in from each team, what the schedule looks like.
Right.
Is it feasible to hit that over under?
And I know how I sound when it comes to Notre Dame. And I know I sound really, really harsh, and I wouldn't mind. It would be good for college football for them to be good. And
agreed.
Consistent is the word I would like to use with Notre Dame, is consistent. They are not. Even when they were doing a little bit better the year before last, I didn't think they were that consistent.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I just don't think Marcus Freeman's the right guy for the job at Notre Dame. I just don't. And I really think it's a coaching thing. I don't think it's a talent thing because I think they have the talent. I think it's just it's the wrong coaching staff. They didn't make any changes from what I know as far other than the linebackers coach. But the same staff that they were dealing with last year is the same one that's here this year. And Notre Dame fans, I'm sorry, but I don't have any faith in Freeman at all.
Yeah, this is the telling year for him. And this is a huge year for him.
Do you think if he doesn't get 10 wins, do you think that they would let him go?
I don't think this year. I feel like they're going to give him one more if he doesn't reach the playoffs. I feel like they give him one more make or break.
I feel like this year is like the year to go after the playoffs with so much with Saban not at Alabama no more, with Harbaugh and all these different other coaching changes going on.
Yeah,
I feel like they should have probably went a little more all in than what they did.
Yeah,
in my opinion, but
no, I feel you. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see when the time comes. But Notre Dame 10.5 over under. I guess we'll see when we get there. I'm not feeling it personally.
Yeah, I don't know.
Trev, let's jump into NC State.
This
is a team. I know we felt doom and gloom about Notre Dame. It's just because I don't have the optimism.
There'll be optimism. There'll be optimism with this team.
There's optimism here, and for me, it's even Dave Doran. He hasn't had great, wonderful seasons, but he's long tenured. He's been there for a while. Okay, they had a solid 2023. They went 9-4. Okay, it wasn't great to start. They lost to Notre Dame. A team, like we said, props to Notre Dame. They beat the hell out of them last year. NC State went out, lost 13-10 to Louisville. They lost to Duke. And then after the bye week, things seemed to change. They went out and beat Clemson. They beat Miami. They beat Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, North Carolina.
Certainly did.
They did lose to Kansas State in a bowl game, 28-19. So it didn't finish the way they wanted. But a lot of these bowl games are changing now. A lot of opt-outs, all this other stuff going on. But when I look at NC State going into this year, I think it's a good building block the way they finished. They finished strong. Dave Doran, again, he's been there for a long time. A lot of his seasons are 8 to 9 wins. I want to see if he can get over the hump. So he's another one kind of where,
this is the team to do it and the schedule to do it.
Exactly. And this is a team where the transfer portal, I feel like, can really help you go out and try to win your conference in a year. You can change. A coach can come in 1 year after a hard season, and if NIL is on board, they can go out and get a lot of good players and build a team that's worthy of going to the conference championship. And I feel like NC State's right there.
Yeah.
Initially from the portal, Trevor, I mean, you go out and you brought in 15, you lost 22, so there's a little difference there. But still, it's an 18th ranked class. That means they went out and got good players too. And namely Grayson McCall.
Grayson McCall. I'm really, really interested to see the kid from Ohio State, Noah Rogers. 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver. That's a good pickup for them. They've got some looks to be some really solid players from some really prestigious programs.
And I'd say one of the biggest ones would be Jordan Waters, the running back from Duke.
Oh yeah,
he was strong last year, and I watched their spring game. I know it's a spring game, but he looked really good right off the jump. So that's a team. That's a player I'm really excited to watch. But like you said, they went out and got a bunch of Power 4 talent, guys jumping from other major conferences.
OU, what were some other ones that jumped?
I mean, they got guys from Auburn,
Mizzou, offensive tackle from Mizzou. I mean, he's a 3-star, but still, I mean, they got this tight end coming out of UConn that's rated as a 4-star, 92 4-star.
Justin Jolly.
Zeke Coral, inside offensive lineman out of Notre Dame.
Yep. That's the one we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Their starting center jumps
now
in conference.
Yeah.
So these are things where you look at it, you're like, okay, these are names that, these guys should jump right in and help immediately. You got cornerback help in Corey Coley from Maryland. Hollywood Smothers, another guy running back. Yeah, that's kind of, he'll be depth behind Jordan Waters, but again, you're building a roster up after losing some players, like guys to App State, guys to Liberty, guys to Colorado. So the guys you're losing, maybe one or two like to Miami, North Carolina, and Michael Allen went to UNLV, one of their running backs. That's why they went out and got Jordan Waters. But it's just one of those, you're building that depth, and I can see why there's optimism too, based on one, they're bringing back solid production. They got 59% coming back. It's not great, it's not bad, but it's a good middle. But Grayson McCall, I think, is the reason why there's so much optimism. This is a good quarterback. He's been around the block. He's played really tough games, but he's been consistent. He's got a good arm. He's good, accurate, and he looked really good in that spring game. And I think that's why people are really excited about what they have. And this offense with their wide receivers, like you said, Noah Rodgers, the O-line help coming in, I think they're going to cause some big trouble in the ACC. And honestly, they should be one of the favorites to win the conference.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you.
I mean, seriously, when you look at it, I think we mentioned it. Miami should be up there. Florida State for sure. Clemson. To me, it's Florida State, Clemson, and NC State, and then everybody else.
And NC State's on there for me simply because of their schedule and the roster they've managed to construct.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anyone's looked at their schedule lately. It lines up quite nicely.
Oh, it certainly does. And for me, before we get into schedule, biggest thing for me is the defense and tackling. Mm-hmm. They had some tackling issues in the spring game. I know it's a spring game. They did lose their two top tacklers. That's type of stuff I want to see them, be able to develop that, because that defense is going to win them or lose them games. Yes, you've got an offense that can go out and score points.
Yep.
You better be able to stop people too.
And speaking of the defense, they went all in on some defense just recently, according to 247 Sports. As of the 5th of May and the 13th of May, they've got a 3-star D lineman coming out of Colorado, Chaz Wallace, and Jihad Carter, safety out of Ohio State, committed just a few days ago, on May 13th.
Yep. Solid size safety, 6'1", 203.
Yep.
Big body on the D line, almost 300-pounder. So those are, again, even if they're not starting, that's your depth, and that's rotational guys.
That's rotational guys. As long as they know the playbook and they can get up to speed fast enough,
and
they'll be there.
They've run snaps, so that's exciting for them. Let's talk schedule, Trevor. It's right here. And I feel like the most of NC State's pretty cut and dry. Grayson McCall, Jordan Waters, Noah Rodgers. You got Concepcion on the outside. You've got guys from last year that are plugging in too. It's not just transfer guys, okay? We're just covering the transfer because there's so much stuff that changes, okay? Most of these fan bases know, okay, these guys are coming back, but we're really excited to have these new guys come in. Even if they're not the wide receiver number one, these are guys that they're going to step in and they're going to make some sort of difference. Even, like we talked about, Wesley Grimes and Jolly, these are guys that are going to come in and help out. But let's talk schedule, Trevor.
Sure.
Because you go in and you look at week 1, Western Carolina. Okay, that's an easy win. That's a good tune-up, and I feel like you really need that this year with all these transfers. It's great to have a tune-up game, an early, one that you can kind of just roll the punches and let's see what happens. But by God, week 2, you better be ready because Tennessee, they're going to Charlotte. Okay,
they're gonna be ready.
Yeah, Tennessee's hyped, man. They are excited for this season. So NC State, you better get your stuff in gear because they're coming first. And really, it's the start of the schedule that's tough. After that, I feel like it's a lot more manageable.
That's the only tough game they have other than Clemson.
Yeah.
They have 2 games on their schedule.
I see
legitimately
ones that
they won't be favored in.
Yeah. I agree. I see ones that you can stumble. Syracuse, California. We talked about Duke and Georgia Tech as teams that have potential. Duke more defense, Georgia Tech more offense. but you should be able to with what NC State has, they should be able to go out and beat these teams. Clemson and Tennessee. The beginning of your
Nice.
schedule is your season.
Yeah, it is. It is. It'll 100% set the tone for the rest of the season. But I'm still more and more I look at this, I'm starting to think, because I know Syracuse just picked up a couple new transfers just over the past week or so, and I'm starting
Yeah.
to think that maybe Syracuse might be more of a player in the ACC than I originally thought.
I think a lot of people might be feeling that way. I mean, we're going to talk about them in another episode down the line here, as we
Yeah.
round out the ACC. But again, my initial lookings at them too are that's a good team.
This is where I sit with it right now, is that obviously we talked about the big ends, I guess you could say: NC State, Clemson, Florida State, and who do we say was the fourth?
We said Clemson, Florida State, NC State, Miami.
Miami, that's right. Yeah. And there could be an argument to be made, only because of what we've reviewed and what we've looked at already, is that I'm kind of looking at Cal, Syracuse, and probably maybe Duke to slide into that second tier,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of everyone else.
Yeah, definitely Cal and Syracuse. I get that feeling of these are teams that can screw a season real quick.
Yeah,
And funny enough, NC State plays them back to back right after
they
Wake
do.
Forest.
They do. That's why I brought it up. That's kind of
Yeah.
why I brought it up.
Yeah, great
Is that
point, Trevor.
is that they do have NIU, they do have Wake Forest, which Wake Forest isn't always easy. They play tough, no
They always
matter.
do.
They always do. But then you go to Syracuse comes in, and then you got to go out to California, and then you come back to Stanford, which shouldn't be a tough game,
Yeah.
but it's still Stanford. It's still big. I mean, at this point, I think we've covered it multiple different times and said it multiple different times. But I really think that ACC is so spread out with the talent that it's very, very hard to determine some of these mid teams on how we think they'll play against these top tier parts of the ACC. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's definitely deeper than it has been. And again, at the start of the
could be
schedule
fun.
is toughest.
It'll be fun.
Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, that first. Sorry, I'm counting again. What, 6 games? 7
Yeah.
games. The first 7 games of your schedule. That's tough. And then you get a bye week. Then you have Stanford, Duke, bye week, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina. Rivalry
And
game.
rivalry week, you can never really bet one way or the other on it.
Anything can happen.
Because, I mean, there's been years, not to bring up Michigan, Ohio State, but Ohio State be like 1 or 2 in the country. Michigan be unranked, and it'd be like 56-52.
Yeah.
And you just never know with rivalry week.
Exactly. And look, you trounced North Carolina last year. Okay.
Mm-hmm. They
can't let that get to your head. You cannot let it get to your head. Keep rolling with it. So I think there's, again, this optimism around NC State from us, and I think from a lot of people too. This is a team that could go far, but it's all going to ride on Dave Doran and his coaching ability to get this defense ready, because the offense should be firing on all cylinders with the talent that they have.
And to a point that you just kind of brought up is the coaching. Dorn bringing in a new defensive coordinator in Tony Gibson, very much a veteran coach, comes into the Wolfpack. He's been with West Virginia for the past as an associate head coach for the past 3 seasons, defensive coordinator with them for the past 5, and has been linebacker coach all the way dating back to 2014. So they bring in a very much a veteran defensive coordinator, which could lend to the fact that they're getting some of these defensive transfers in, that they're liking seeing a veteran defensive coordinator that's been around the block a bit. Let's see. I know they brought in at least one other. Let's see. That last year was the first year for Robert Anae as the offensive coordinator and inside wide receivers coach. So he came into Raleigh with stints at BYU, Virginia, and Syracuse. So, I mean, he's very well known in the ACC community,
Yeah.
as you can see. So they brought in a few. See, this is what I like to see about a team that did well last year, but is not going to rest on their whatever. They're not going to
Laurels.
rest on what they've whatever.
Yeah, I feel you.
I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say at this point. Well, whatever.
Buddy, I get you, man.
Oh,
I know
man.
what you're saying.
But no, but they're not going to go with the status quo and just see if they can keep on going.
Yeah.
Like the previous team we just talked about, they're actually trying to improve, bring in a more veteran coaching staff.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that keeps coaches' jobs. Also, by the way.
Agreed. Agreed. And again, that defense is what we see needs some help, and they've brought in players to do it. They've got some veteran guys that they're ready. Fordham at linebacker, he's going to be huge this season. Anchoring that middle on the linebacker crew. So
100%.
We'll see what they do. But I feel pretty happy with them. They have an over-under of 8.5, which surprised me a little bit.
That's a bit low.
But I feel like taking the over on that one personally.
I might put some money on that over.
Again,
I ain't gonna lie to you.
I mean, yeah. Like there's sneaky games in there. Let's see what they do in the season. But I feel confident in this team.
Yeah.
But I still want to see Doran go out and prove it. Get over that 9-win hump, bro. Come on, man.
Just get into the playoff. Put NC State in the playoff. I want to see it.
I want to see it. I love their helmets. I think they're sexy. All right, I know I love uniforms. Let's go talk about our last team tonight, Trevor. And that's Pitt,
the most confusing team in the ACC.
Now, we mentioned them earlier about hot seat candidates. Do you still feel that way, Trevor, about Narduzzi? Because to me, nothing's changed. Even doing the
looking
research
at their schedule, I 100% believe that this man will not be the coach at Pitt by the end of the season. Only reason I say that is because the stretch starting from, I would say, about October 12th on, it gets very difficult for Pitt.
Yeah. And even cross games too early.
Oh yeah, the early cross games for sure are not going to be easy. And look, Kent State ain't no joke. Let's just be clear about that.
I mean, you got to be ready for them. But again, this is a team. We mentioned hot seat, and obviously last year, they was not good. Okay, let's just be honest with it. It was 3-9, 2-6 in conference. Narduzzi's been around for a minute, man. Okay, obviously he moved over from Michigan State back when they were good under D'Antonio. He was their defensive coordinator. But god dang, I just feel like it has not been what they expected. He's had an outlier season of 11-3. That was great. That was 2021. But now look at it now. Most of the time it's middling. It's not it's not what you're expecting. And like you said, with last year being so tough, you better go out and kick some ass this year because you are on the hot seat, Pat Narduzzi. I don't care what anybody says.
Do you think that them bringing in Eli Holstein from Alabama makes him the odds-on favorite to be QB1?
So let's talk portal because they brought in Holstein, like you mentioned, which is a really good player. You expect at least a quarterback of the future, if not this year. But from everything that I've been reading, is they don't necessarily expect him to start. Yarnell is expecting to be the guy based on that spring game. They said that Holstein had some really good moments, but he still just looked too young and not ready for their offense, and they want to go with Yarnell. Holstein's obviously he's fine with it, whatever decision they make, because he didn't re-enter the portal. But yeah, everything I've seen says that it looks like Yarnell is going to be the guy. And
that'd be concerning. That'd be concerning for me as a coach if I brought in a quarterback and he didn't seem like he was still ready.
Yeah,
he's been there since January 7th, roughly, or he committed. He committed then at least. I don't know. Maybe Alabama dodged the bullet by getting rid of him or letting him go.
It's possible, but I'll say when you look at their portal class. It's not overly impressive. It's a 48th class. It's not bad. I mean, that's not horrible. You're
No,
going
it's
out
not
and
bad.
getting guys across the board that have played ball. They're filling gaps that you need. So that's a plus. You did lose 20 guys. Yeah, I
Brought
think
in
I
13.
mentioned it's the 48th, right? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, they brought
Uh,
in 13.
Thank you. Yeah, because I lost my damn spot. But yeah, they bring in 13, you lose 20, so it's not a horrible ratio. You're at
No.
least plugging gaps. Um, Unlike some of the teams that
Some
I've
of these signees though just don't make sense. Like
yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
understand. Your Pitt and your okay. Like I don't mean to talk bad about anybody particularly, but like they must be desperate at the safety position to take a transfer from Eastern that's rated as a 2-star prospect.
Yeah,
Um, unless he must know somebody. That's all I gotta say.
it's possible he's not bad. I mean, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
don't
I don't
follow
know much
Eastern that
about
much.
Eastern, but the fact of the matter is that most of these programs, there is not a 2-star on their transfer list.
Yeah,
The fact that this one is, I mean, I would maybe he's a fringe, player,
yeah,
and but they
and even
also he's not the only safety they brought in. So
yeah, England Jr. from Kentucky. At least he's
mhm.
bigger body. It's 6'1". He's rated as a 3-star. So I mean that's some help on the back end. Taman Lanham from Nebraska, another defensive player. So obviously, like you said, last year was rough, and you're trying to find some help. And the defense
Yep,
wasn't that bad last year. They rated 49th overall in the country.
yeah,
And again, I know it's total defense. That's a little different than all the advanced stats, but still, you can look and kind of tell a team where they belong. If they're lower, in that 40, 50 range, that's still not a bad team. That's a solid defensive team. But Jesus, that offense, 114th last year, 114th. And where's the help you went and got? Jake Overman, okay, tight end, 6'4", big body from Oregon State,
yeah.
solid.
Williams Jr. out of San Diego State
Yeah. Uh,
at wideout.
Desmond Reed, another one that you're looking for. They liked
Hmm.
what he did in the spring game, but again, that's Western Carolina. So I know there's good players scattered throughout the FCS. I'm not putting them down,
100%.
but they are excited about him. But he's a small back. That's my only thing when I mention this. He's 5'8", 170.
Yeah.
Small backs can still be good. I'm not saying that, but
I, I
it's just
will
something to
say
watch.
I will say that it's been pretty glaring this year's transfer class for them that their main concentration was defense.
Yeah. And not to say they kept Brandon George too, which was I think important for them. He's a
Yeah.
4-star rated transfer. Um, he's been with the team for a little while, and but he entered the portal early in the fall portal, but he withdrew his name and he joined back. So there's got to be a feeling there that okay, we're going to have a solid defense again. We brought in some guys to plug holes. We've got to be stronger on offense. And when I look at the even who they brought in and that they bring back 55% of the returning production. It just worries me a little bit for Pitt, and I don't know. I look at him. Gavin Bartholomew is probably going to be their biggest target on offense. He's a
Yep.
tight end, like I said. And that's a good player. He's been around. He's been around for a while. Desmond Reed again is a guy that they're looking for, but you got to have better offensive output, and I'm a little concerned that they cannot. So that lends
And
to
that
that
kind of
over
rolls
under.
into me wanting to talk about the schedule too,
Yeah,
about
let's.
not having offensive output because they're
Mhm.
gonna have to have it. They have to
Yeah,
have it.
yeah, and they have an over under of 5.5.
And
Trevor,
that might be generous at this
yeah,
point.
because let's look at that schedule, Trevor, because you
Yeah,
mentioned the
sure.
back end of it.
Let's talk about the first few weeks, the first 4 games. We got
Yeah,
Kent State comes in. Then they go out to Cincinnati. Then West Virginia comes in,
West
and they
Virginia
play
is going to be tough.
Youngstown State. West
Yeah,
Virginia is going to play them tough. There's no doubt about that.
Cincy,
Oh,
I mean, you got to be ready for them.
yeah. Cincy, you got to be ready for them. I'd say having Cincy and West Virginia back to back is a tough little stretch right at the beginning of the year, a real big test for them.
Yeah.
To see where they're at, because I think if they walk out of those first 4 weeks with 4 wins, I think that's setting themselves up for a really good, potentially at least meeting the line, because I think that they match up fine against North Carolina. But after that, it gets really difficult, Brendan, I think.
And honestly, like you said, if they go 4-0 in that stretch, which I would be shocked if they do. I think West Virginia is going to beat them.
Yeah, I do too.
Even though their defense is, I think, going to be okay. The offense, I'm still concerned about quarterback play. And but if they go 4-0, I mean, watch out because they probably beat North Carolina at that point and probably Cal, and then look at the rest of the schedule. I mean, holy shit. But I just, again, I don't see that happening. I think Cal's really strong team. You need to. That's not going to be easy. North Carolina's got pieces. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a slugfest every single week for Pitt. And we haven't said that much about any of these teams that we previewed. They said we're not going to blow smoke, up every team. And everything's possible. No, it's not.
No, it's going to be a fight all the way to the end of the season. They're going to have a few weeks where there might be. I want to say there's like 2-3 weeks where they can maybe sub their starters out a lot more, but outside of that, it's going to be a grind.
Honestly, I could see 5 wins. Over that, I don't see much more, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll clear 5 wins, though. Yeah, I think they could get 5 wins, but getting past that point will be a fight.
Yeah,
will be a big fight.
So I don't know. Boston College, Youngstown State, Kent State, Cincinnati.
Yep.
Maybe one more. I don't know. I don't. Virginia, possibility, but it's not looking good. So for me, Pitt fans, tell me why we're wrong. I want to know why you're optimistic. If you hear this, let us know. And
seriously,
I mean that in the most honest way.
I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear, 1, what your questions are, and 2, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm sorry, I just don't feel it, and I feel like Trevor said, Narduzzi is going to be gone after this year.
Yeah, I think it's almost time for a change anyway.
Yeah, that's our honest feelings on it, and that's what we're going to give you, honesty. We're not going to, even if we hate teams, because we are fans too. We're going to give you an honest to God assessment, and that's just what we do. But guys. Trevor, I think that's it for tonight, and then we got more ACC stuff rolling on as the week goes.
Yeah, this should be coming out. Let's see, we're Friday night, so this should be popping out to y'all tomorrow morning to listen to while you're drinking your morning coffee on Saturday.
Yep. So we appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys go like, subscribe, comment anytime you're on YouTube or listening. Comment. It helps us out. Share with your friends. If you know fans of these teams that we're talking about, shoot it to them.
Shoot it to them, yeah. Share it on social medias at whoever you want to at.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing is again we're going to give you our honest assessment, but we want to hear input from the fans of these teams and why we might be wrong, why we should be more optimistic. That's all. That's what we're doing this for. So again, we do appreciate you guys. We thank you for listening, and we hope you stay tuned and check out more ACC previews coming up very soon.
Who do we got next, Brennan?
My bad. We got hold on, SMU, Stanford, and Syracuse. I almost forgot.
You are on deck.
Have a great night, guys.
Take it easy.